Hi everybody, this is Alchemist 2, and I'm back again with another TV series review. I recently watched Season 1 of Downton Abbey, and I must say that I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a very intimate and intriguing look at the lives of a rich family that incorporate the marriage of a young man from a middle-class family, not really knowing how middle-class people live. They're in their own little world. They're kind of unfamiliarized with how normal, quote-unquote, life works. And it's very intriguing how they live their lives and how manipulative the women are, except for Sybil. Sybil seems to be the only woman in the group who seems to be kind-hearted, generous, and I don't know if that changes in Season 2 or not. It might, but thus far we know that Mary, the eldest, and Edith, the youngest, are at each other's throats quite a bit. And I have to say that Maggie Smith as the Dowager Countess, Violet Grantham, she is superb in this role, and her lines are probably the best in the whole program, and they're some of the funniest I've ever heard. It gives those of us who are not privileged, well, I guess I could say I am privileged in and of my own life, but not to that extent. I'm not rich by any means, but it shows you just how rich people are not happy with their lives unless they give back to society somehow. And this was a very intriguing time in history. It was the Edwardian period, and this is occurring right before the Great War. And actually, Season 2 is when the Great War is going on. Season 1 is when the Archduke was murdered, and then the Great War breaks out. But there's quite a bit that happens within the first season in and of itself, and I'm hoping that there are some resolutions. I won't say what happens. If you've seen it, then you understand, and you probably feel the same way I do. I love all the characters, and I think that everything in this is done superbly, as all BBC serials are. The music is ambrosial, and it fits the mood and the scenes perfectly. I also think that the framing of the certain scenes is really done in a very artistic way, and it's also genius. Particularly when O'Malley, the maid, she looks at herself in the mirror in one scene in one of the episodes, and she says, "Sarah O'Malley, this isn't you." And I like the way they did that. And earlier, she saw herself as like they framed her. It was very metaphorical and also symbolic in a way. Later on, there's a way they did this with color, I feel, with the colors and the costumes that the characters wear, and it's all very clever. And it would take a genius to do this, and I don't know if they meant it outright or if it was just supposed to be subliminal, but I noticed and I said, "Did you happen to pick that up with my dad?" And he said, "No, until you mentioned it, I had completely slipped my mind." I said, "That was done purposely because it shows the dynamic between the two," and I won't say which two I mean because it'll be a huge spoiler. But anyways, I really like the first season. I think it deserves 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. And if you haven't seen Downton Abbey, I highly recommend it, particularly those of you who are just fascinated by the whole idea of what it would be like to have a family this way, and how the other half lives, basically. And that's the whole idea of the story, I do believe. And I think it's very it's fascinating, for one thing, and the dynamics between the characters is also very intriguing. It's like a microcosm in another way, because everybody knows everything about everybody else, but nobody says anything because they're afraid that if they do, they could get sacked, and it's all very complicated and complex and labyrinthine. And it's very true of life in and of itself. But I think it doesn't have to be, but within this kind of setting, you cannot help it but to become this way. I look forward to seeing seasons 2 and 3 in the near future, and season 4 will be aired, and hopefully we'll be able to catch that when it's aired. But I have to say, as a lover of all things British, it shows one of the things we don't like about the British of themselves, they're kind of snooty, and it's the whole stereotype is just played to the nth degree, and how vindictive and manipulative the women are, just because they can, and they want to one up each other, and they want to have superiority. And you can see that the order of eldership, birth order plays a huge role here. And there's one thing that you'll understand near the end of the first season, why it's so important, and you think, yes, this is why Lord Grantham was all Twitter about this, and why Mary was waiting to make her decision with Matthew. But it's just very intriguing and interesting in and of itself. I highly recommend the series. It's really remarkably done, phenomenal, and it is really a treat. And just you'll enjoy it. I'm pretty sure you will. And every day I'll think of the theme in and of itself. And funny thing is, whenever I see bells, I think of Downton Abbey, but yeah, I'm weird that way, but it really is a tremendous show, and a true work of art, and I think it's rather relatable, even though most of us can say that we don't live in that kind of affluent world, thank God, because I think it would be very challenging and difficult, and there would be too much stress, and it's no wonder all the characters don't die of heart attack and at an early age, because of all the responsibilities they are required to uphold.